Welcome to Refirement Life, the podcast for anyone navigating life transitions or planning to make life transitions to ensure your next years are your best years. Listen in for insightful, generous, and sometimes humorous conversation. It's time to get fired up with Christine Zamuda and Muge Wood, your hosts for this latest episode of Refirement Life.
Today we're going to talk about using AI to build businesses and why this is a fantastic opportunity for people in their second, third chapter. Good morning, Muge. How are you?
Good morning, Christine. Good to be here with you today. This is a topic near and dear to my heart, not because I'm a startup entrepreneur, but I benefit from a lot of the AI-related capabilities in my daily work, and I can see how it can extend to entrepreneurship. So looking forward to our conversation.
Awesome. Yeah, I've been able to use a lot of these tools firsthand in building a business, and it is very exciting. And I think for folks who aren't doing that yet, what we're going to talk about should be pretty thought-provoking and trigger some ideas for sure. So let's talk about the topic and sort of set up the scene here. If you think about starting a business and think about, what it takes to do this in the past, you certainly needed a lot of capital, you needed a team, you needed technical expertise. I mean, even websites used to be pretty challenging until recently. And more importantly, you needed to be young enough to take the risk and understand how that was going to play out to make sure you were protected, right? I mean, you had time to kind of try and fail. But something, really remarkable is happening right now. AI is certainly changing the dynamic of starting businesses and scaling businesses. So for the first time in history, a single person with deep experience and expertise can actually scale like a team of 10, 20, 30 with the power of AI. For some of you who are experimenting with AI, you can, probably get a sense of what this is. You can research a market in minutes. It can help you certainly write proposals, build websites. In many ways, AI is actually becoming a co-founder to people starting now. And why this is exciting for people in their 40s, 50s, 60s, even 70s, is that with the experience that these individuals bring, it makes that relationship even more powerful, because AI can generate information, but it certainly cannot replicate experience. It cannot, understand those nuances of industry that really comes from being in the shoes, having the wisdom that comes with like real life at bats, right? So what we want to do today is tell you a little bit about what's happening in the market, give you, as we always do, some research, some statistics. We are going to also talk about why, sort of drill down into why this is an awesome opportunity for people in their second chapter. And we're going to brainstorm and even do a little bit of a working thinking exercise about what could be possible for you if you want to explore this a little further. So here are some of the stats. First, artificial intelligence is exploding globally. We all know that. But the market itself is already worth $391 billion. That's with a B. The researchers are saying that AI could contribute 15.7 trillion to the global economy by 2030. 72% of companies now use AI in at least one business function. And AI adoption is growing at 36% per year. So with that, also, we want to talk about AI and help people understand, the differences and nuances between some of these terms. What we see is generative AI dramatically lowers startup cost. And when we say generative AI, this is the type of artificial intelligence that can create new content. So it can create new text, new music, video, software code, designs. This isn't just a web search, it's actually doing something for you. And we can even go a step farther with some of the things that AI agents, agentic AI is doing, which means you've got an agent that's actually automating tasks. It's beyond that idea of an AI assistant that would book calendars, but they're actually like doing things, could even be customer facing. So that's a bit about the market and the research, which is pretty amazing in terms of the opportunity that's out there and still growing.
Yeah, that's actually pretty remarkable, Christine, and you did a fantastic job outlining. I've seen during decades of my career in technology how proper use of technology can be a great equalizer and pathway to prosperity, because all you need, and maybe this is not trivial, but maybe it is relative to a brick and mortar store, is a computer and internet connection, and then you can make a lot happen with that. I know AI creates some concern in terms of what it is going to do. Is it going to take over jobs and etc.? But the flip side of it, it creates a ton of opportunities. So like the points you made, let's say you want to start a business of any kind, you can create your logo by yourself and make it very compelling, very interesting, very unique. You can create your website, you can create your proposals, and not only create content, but be able to critique the content by running through whether it's Microsoft Copilot tools or Claude AI and other plethora of AI tools out there, and essentially work with a virtual team of assistants to help you set it up. And I've seen firsthand how it increases the quality and also the speed by which things get done. So, it just opens up such a rich opportunity for all of us to consider, whether it's a side hustle, next chapter, or a primary thing that you have got going.
Yeah, for sure. So if we look at some of the research in terms of doing things later in your career, they say that the most successful entrepreneurs are often older. That makes sense, right? Because you have the skin knees, you have the the bumps, the bruises, the learnings that come with business. MIT Sloan School of Management says that the average age of a successful startup founder is about 45. And founders over 50 are almost twice as likely to build a successful company as founders in their 20s.
Yeah, remarkable. I think we see that a lot, and this runs a little counter to the notion that the 20-year-old starting up the business with two of his friends in the garage. I think that is good, and that's fantastic. But I think there is a lot to be said to have a little bit more experience, wisdom, financial freedom to explore and try something with all that experience, put it into motion, and I think there's a lot to be said for that. That is wonderful. I can see how they could be hugely valuable. Because in younger days, yes, you have freedom and maybe you have less to lose, so to speak, but you also have still a lot of bills to pay. Mm-hmm. And the risk still is there, and at times it could be even more. So I can totally see this, especially after 40s, 50s, 60s, that age group where a lot of times you have talent, expertise, energy. and you can experiment, you can explore, lined up with your passion also, whether your passion is travel, helping others, whatever it may be.
Yeah, yeah. And as we've talked about before, sometimes it takes a while to find that passion. So you may be better off understanding what it truly is later in life than in your 20s. There's another stat in terms of entrepreneurship growing fastest among people over 50. So the Kauffman Foundation is coining this term encore entrepreneurship. And I like that term, right? It's like you've had a great career. Encore. Here's your next chapter. But they say right now that people 55 to 64 are the fastest growing group of entrepreneurs in the US.
It is amazing. I mean, that statistic is amazing because not only for the individual themselves, but the opportunity it creates for those around them. I think that's fantastic. It would be interesting to maybe to do a little bit of research into this. I don't think we have this today necessarily, but the type of entrepreneurship that we see, if there is a density of a certain type of business or subject matter, and maybe it's all over the place. But regardless, 55 to 64, what a great opportunity.
Yeah, for sure. We're also seeing, and we've talked about this before, in terms of longevity. If you retire at 60 today, I mean, you may have a good amount of productive working time remaining, whether that's 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, still plenty of runway to create a business. Yeah.
That's a long time. And thinking, the multi-generational opportunity that it may create as well. So because a lot of times as we age, we may think about legacy, the purpose, the meaning, and this could be a strong contributor to that.
Definitely. I guess the last thing to just touch upon is, we talked about in the past, you'd need capital, you'd need people. And when you think about that, really before AI, on average, they're saying, launching a decent sized company would be about 50K to 200K. On average, in terms of startups. When you think about the people cost, you would need potentially the technology cost, capital. And today, I mean, AI tools are allowing some businesses to launch for a few $1,000s or less. And, I got to say, I've been sort of doing things like over the last 2 years in consulting. And I think it's very true. I mean, we're actually living that. It does not take much at all when you're using the tools effectively in terms of upfront capital. It's crazy. So that's a little bit about why people in their second or third chapter are well matched for using AI to build businesses. We can talk a little bit about how AI removes the barriers, and we've touched on some of the cost. So I don't think we need to go through that piece. I guess the other thing is just, local business optimization, because so many small businesses still struggle with technology. Using AI and the way some of the tools are built today just makes it a bit easier once you sort of get in there and start experimenting.
That's a great point, Christine. It I think reduces the barrier or cost of entry, but then there's an element of optimization, reach, and also an experimentation a little bit, because you can try different ideas faster. Then you can pivot faster because you are less connected with expensive outside expertise or tools and rigid systems. So it gives a lot of opportunity opportunity, I think, for that experimentation, exploration, and pivoting to the dynamism of the marketplace. As an example, I think one of the things that is continuing to gain a lot of popularity is personalized marketing, really getting to know your customer as a customer of one, and being able to create a reach out that is personal, memorable, and it retains the memory of experience with that customer. So I think those types of things that would have taken a very long time, a lot of big teams, and still maybe not be possible, is possible now when the human abilities are paired with AI capabilities. So it does usher in a new era for sure for startups.
Yeah, yeah. So before we get to the exercise where we want folks to sort of explore and envision, there's also some things to caution against. AI is, certainly powerful, but it's not risk-free. We want, people sort of with an open eye, and I think like this is an area that requires a fair amount of education, is protecting your intellectual property. So a lot of people are not aware that as they put in information into like a chat GPT, that becomes common information that can be sourced by anyone, right? So if you have something that's proprietary, if you're inventing a product, a brand, a methodology, you certainly want to trademark that. But there are different approaches to using AI tools, and you would likely be better off setting up a large language model with a provider like Google Gemini, or there's other tools out there which helps you keep your information contained, and you still have the benefit of searching against that, bringing in new ideas, bringing in new research, but it's not outwardly shared to the rest of the world. So that's certainly something to think about. And I think a lot of businesses, at least, some of the small businesses, some of the consultants that I speak with, are not yet aware of that fact.
That's a great point. So there are publicly available models that actually can train on your content, and that's why I think there's a little caution around not using proprietary information just freely out there against these models. However, when those models are provisioned in your environment with any given cloud provider, then it can have the additional controls of security, privacy, and governance. So it works only with your data, and it stays within the boundary of your organization. But if you are going to put it out there without those controls, yes, I think you are running that risk of sharing information that shouldn't be out there. The other thing, Christina, that occurred to me in our conversation is the quality of scams also has improved greatly because of AI. So that's another thing to be careful of as we interact with the new era of AI. Extra vigilant, and make sure we layer the people knowledge, process, and technology to be really alert. And unfortunately, there are more bad actors trying to infringe upon private information, etc. So that has gotten more sophisticated as well.
Yeah, definitely. That's something we always have to be aware of. And now that they're AI powered with some amazing tools, it's even going to be more challenging, right?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. On the other hand, there is some interesting positive things that are also happening. And I saw recently, a friend of mine was like, "Wow, I just got my first SEO lead from ChatGPT." And what that means is, because they were sharing some information, someone else was able to find their company and contact them for service. So that's another dynamic that's happening in terms of, in the past, like website pages, you would have to, and you should have noted all these keywords so that's searchable, so it's findable. But now there's like so much information out there, and it's pulling from different sources than a marketer had intended. So I guess there's positive things, but you just really have to be careful about what you're sharing and how you're discovered.
Yeah, what you're sharing, also what you're doing with the information, I think I really appreciate. There's a lot of citation of the source when these results are returned, so you know where it's coming from. And I like the opportunity to critique the idea as well. So you can do a lot of market research. You can put your business plan through these agents to get an insight on flaws or where you may need to strengthen. But ultimately, it does come to the discretion and the expertise of the person to know what to do with it and discern the conjecture and sometimes over-optimism from the reality of what you're up against, because sometimes you get results that are very confident and very optimistic, but then you have to really dig into it a little bit deeper.
Yeah. I've actually, with the AI tools I'm using, I've asked them to stop saying, "That's a brilliant idea. Go on."
Right.
I want you to challenge, and I want you to like just be a straight talker, not all this flattery, because
And you need to say that. Then you see how the tone and the results change.
yes.
You need to say that, because otherwise it's very nice. The good thing though is you can ask difficult questions without worrying about hurting someone's feelings. So again, comes to how you use it and what you do with it. That's right. Sometimes it can be a little too flattering. You're
Right.
brilliant. That was awesome. Keep going.
The other caution is to be careful, and what we say is like avoid AI wrappers. And what we mean by this is, if your business is highly dependent on a software tool and you're putting a thin, for lack of a better word, a wrapper around it. Think about like an agent that's deployed, and maybe you're doing something for a specific industry. Be very careful of how much of your business is dependent on that particular technology, because there's still uncertainty in the market, and you don't want to put all of your eggs in one basket should that company not do well and go out of business. You'd have to think about what your contingency plans are. And AI can be very easy, but just also use your good business sense when you're selecting partners.
Contingency planning, I think, is always a good idea related to business continuity planning as well. And I think a corollary to that is just being on the lookout and keep staying in touch with the evolution of these models and capabilities, because you can start with a set of capabilities, but something else may come along that is superior. So need to be able to switch and take advantage of what is next in a way. So having that flexibility and mindset is going to be really important, because these models are evolving rapidly. They are learning. We are learning. So that creates an opportunity for us for sure.
Yeah. All right. So now we get to the fun exercise. So this is where we would like to invite you, if you have a pencil and paper handy, that would be great. If you want to just brainstorm along with us in your head, that's fine too. We want to help you explore what your own new business might look like should you want to take advantage of this opportunity. So the first step is to write down, 5 things that you know a lot about. And examples could be, your career field, your hobbies or passions, industries you've worked in, or problems that you enjoy solving. So we'll take just a couple 30 seconds, write down a few ideas. Muge, I know booking travel is on your list.
Yes, I am just thinking through these as you are describing, Christine, and travel is a big hobby, and a lot of time spent in energy industry, advising, consulting, and a lot about business process optimization. I think what is interesting probably is putting the answers maybe through a co-pilot
Hmm.
or chat GPT type of tool and say, based on these experiences I have, what are entrepreneurship ideas I could do? So I think even if you may not have the entrepreneurship idea, you could brainstorm based on these experiences where you could go next. And I think that could be very interesting to do.
Yeah, agree. Okay, so now we have a couple ideas and interest. So the next thing to think about are, what problems do people constantly ask me about? So this taps into how you're being perceived externally as a resource. So examples could be, coaching, career advice, leadership challenges, managing finances. These are the things that the people you interact with, either at work or in your community, know about you in terms of being resourceful.
The question I get a lot, Christine, is how can I use AI to provide real value? And will it take over my job?
Mm-hmm.
Those are the two things that come up a lot these days. What are you seeing?
Yeah, it's similar. In fact, I mean, we're writing a book right now with my co-founders about being irreplaceable, human ingenuity in the age of AI, and have started our interview process. We have 15 interviews into about 30 people that we've identified, and it's really interesting some of the things that are coming out. Certainly, I get questions like that. I get questions on. For me, it's creativity. People know me as, a creative person. Hey, I'm stuck. Brainstorm with me on what possibilities might exist that I'm not thinking about. So that does go into business advisory. It does go into coaching and yeah, so it tends to be in those areas. Okay, so that's the next step. And then the next piece would be, well, how can AI help me solve this problem faster or better? And this is, to your point, you could use this first as a brainstorming tool. But in terms of the specifics of what people are looking to you for a resource, how could AI complement and actually scale some of your time, your maybe even the quality of some of your outputs? How could AI even help you make tools of some of the knowledge you have? And
Right. I think it's interesting to think about also how it can help you create scale.
Mhm.
Because it is difficult for a small group of people to scale globally. So how one, the quality of the idea, the execution of that idea, but then the scale of that idea, and to build systems that are dynamic, learning, etc. The other thing that's interesting on this, I think, is where does the human accountability rest? Because you can automate a process to a great deal, but you are still accountable for the outcome. You can't say AI did this. I think defining the accountability and the partnership between the human and agent
Mhm.
becomes a very interesting topic to consider, to define those boundaries. Because, in a business setting, you can automate many things.
Mhm.
You can have AI run the whole gamut of the operations if you put in the time and investment. But how far and how much do you take that, and where humans intervene to make the decisions to implement the ideas? So it becomes an interesting thing to consider.
Yeah, definitely. And one of the ways that we've used AI, and you can appreciate this, as we were doing consulting and helping leaders do things like team meetings and, kicking off new launch activities. I was hearkening back to the things I really liked in my corporate experience. And then I was like, how do we prevent some of the experiences where you're just sitting and sitting, through PowerPoints and people droning on. There wasn't a lot of engagement. And, why do those things fail? A lot of the reasons why they fail is because they don't really, use the neuroscience of understanding how our brain operates, how our brain gets engaged. So with the knowledge and with, the research and with, the insights that we had, we were able to build a model. It's like, 4 parts with all these exercises that we've put together. And it's, how do you build a conscious leader? How do you build a resilient team? How do you drive innovation? And how do you operate with excellence? And that was very much like we scaled it up with AI, but started with our ideas, and it's been fantastic. So that's a real life example of applying, what we knew through our lived experience plus building in, some of the research components, the why it works, and then executing. So that's an example of how AI can help solve the problem faster or better. And then this next step is now that you've brainstormed a bit, it's almost starting with a declarative statement about what you will do. And it's, I could help blank solve blank using AI in my experience. So one example could be I could help small healthcare practices understand regulatory changes using AI research tools and my industry experience. So that's the beginning of a business concept that you can build upon. Lots of opportunities here. Some of the opportunities that came up as we're doing the research, then we just gave the example of AI powered consulting. But there's also a nice passive income stream that comes from building digital courses. So you could, start with what certainly, and use AI as a co-founder to help you create the curriculum, help you create scripts and presentations. I mean, from doing things like this in the past, it takes a lot of time to build that.
It takes a lot of time. One thing that I am passionate about, speaking of the first question, is enablement and skilling on any given topic. And I think being able to leverage AI to create skilling plans that can be fun, short, concise, compelling. It could be for the youth. It could be for people in the workforce. It could be for any given AI skill. I think there's so much opportunity there that we can help others. And the other thing is leveraging really creative prompts to get the most of AI. And I see some of these prompts that people publish, and they're amazing. It goes, and the more specific and in a way elaborate the prompt is, the deeper the insight becomes. So being able to advise people and say, use this prompt with your Copilot or ChatGPT can go a long way on any given topic.
Yeah. I've seen some of that in career coaching. I mean, they have a lot of folks who are doing very specific prompts that can get them out of the gate in a pretty fast-paced way. So other things, AI research services. So small companies often need research, but cannot hire, the big, large consulting firms. Doing competitive analysis, market insights, using AI, and knowing something about the industry. To your point of prompts, what are the most important things based on experience that are going to matter in business execution is something that people could put out there to monetize. We're also seeing a big increase in community platforms and this need for connection, and using AI to think about, like, how do I get people to engage on some of this content? How do I, maybe scale some of the knowledge in keeping the community vibrant is another opportunity.
That is a big opportunity, because community is what creates the energy, connection, and learning. Without getting pulled too much into the world of likes and all that, it is also trackable. The engagement is trackable, which can guide further on, okay, is my content resonating? Can I position this differently? Can I create even hybrid forums, some of it online, some of it in person? And I know, Christine, you do a lot with the local community, but also online, whether it's art or any other topics.
Yeah. And I think the notion of likes is almost dead. I think people don't even have time to put the thumbs
I think
up anymore.
I think that still drives people quite a bit.
Yeah. All right. So I guess we probably should wrap this up. Anything else, Muge, that's kind of top of mind?
I think the only thing I'll say is we learn by doing. So start somewhere, start small. I love the question in the beginning, especially what people come to you for, what are you passionate about, what experience do you have, and how it can translate into a type of entrepreneurship in the next chapter of life. I think just, thinking about it, starting small, doing it, and just like anything, taking that first step.
Yeah. And along with that question, I think it's also good to ask people, like, what do you see in me in terms of assistance, support? Because sometimes you'll be surprised at how people look at you or see you in a light that you might not even be aware of, right? So that actually might help you also fill out that part of the exercise.
Yeah, that's a great point. That's a great point.
Yeah.
All right, let's all go start something.
Let's go start something. Yeah. Hey, and before we break, I just wanted to have a shout out to the country of Singapore. Muge, we have so many listeners in Singapore now.
Is that right? Wow, yeah. That is awesome. I was in Singapore last March for work. And,
maybe that's why.
I think I may have left an impression inadvertently without even trying. So that is incredible. And Christine, I think hopefully we are going to create some interest in South Africa when we take the trip there at the end of April and broadcast live. Yes. I would very much like to continue to grow our cohorts and the connections. That's incredible. Go Singapore.
Yes. Yeah, maybe we need a QR code for South Africa that we can, wear.
That's right. Get ready.
All right. Well, it's such a pleasure. So fun. And hopefully we left you with some things to think about. Have a great rest of your day. And until next time.
Thank you for listening. Our hope is to spark a little joy, inspire, and educate our listeners in ways to live an even more meaningful life. If you have reactions to share from what you've heard, please visit our website, refirement.life, to leave a voice message. You may even be featured in a future episode. To keep in touch, subscribe to our podcast, Refirement Life, using the podcast player of your choice. Always remember, you are never too old to set a new goal or to dream a new dream. Thanks again for joining us on this episode. Until next time.